Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
I'm very excited to bring this message to you. This has really become a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and it has to do with the opportunity that we have at this time of year. How many of you saw our ofrenda for the Dia de los Muertos that's in the Welcome Center? This past Sunday, we had it there. It's still there, so you can go by there and take a look at it. Actually, there's something going on in there. I saw, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't know what's going on in there. It's actually supposed to be an opportunity for you to go in there, so maybe right after the service you'll be able to do that, to go over to the bookstore. But the beautiful part about that is that it's a tradition in the Mexican culture that is reflective of connecting with our ancestors, connecting with those loved ones who've passed to the other side. And the altar is set up at this time of year, and it's also put pictures and some of the favorite things, sometimes to eat, some of their favorite items that they had in their lifetime as a token to remind them. And actually, it's not just to remind you of them, but it's actually to draw their spirits back, to draw their spirits to this place, to this location where you can be with them once again and feel their presence. It's thought that this time of year between the fall equinox and the winter solstice that we know of as right around the Christmas time, that halfway in between, it's said that the veil is very thin. And it's an opportunity for us to connect with those who've passed. And so sometimes people think of it as being macabre and kind of scary, but it isn't at all intended to be that. It is really intended to be drawing comfort and strength and peace from the people that we have missed, those who we feel like may be far away or separate. You know, our grief process has a natural evolution when people pass, and it's necessary for us to make that separation and to find our peace with that loss at some point. But it's also perfectly fine to be able to continue to draw on them and to invite them into your life. They are not separate. They don't perceive that they're separate. They know they don't have a body, but it's sort of good riddance, you know? I mean, in some ways, it's like freedom. It's like being able to be everywhere at once. And there's a great deal of experimenting and a great deal of living in a much bigger way. But because they're able to do that, they're also able to be multiple places or available or attentive in multiple places, like over here with you and over there with your sister at the same time, even if she lives in New Jersey, you know, that kind of thing. So it's that kind of joy of just being able to be present to all of those people that we love. And so I particularly love this practice of paying attention to the fact that we are part of lineage, that there is a lineage that comes through us as bloodlines, as our DNA, and it doesn't require that you know who those people are necessarily. I do have a friend who Reverend Michael reminded me of her. She's been adopted, and so when she was learning about this lineage thing, she basically said, well, I'm adopted, so I don't really know my ancestors. And the teacher, the instructor at the time, just kind of looked at her for a moment and said, don't you think they know who you are? And so the fact is that we have a legion, a team, just really trained on us, really connected to us, really willing to be called into working with us and supporting us, because the love is already there. The love is connecting us. And I will explain some more motivation for some of those people in this way. The lineage that I'm talking about is our bloodline, yes, and our DNA, but they can also be mentors and teachers, people who were, you know, those people that you meet for the first time, but you think you've known forever. Those people, the teacher or the instructor or someone who was so meaningful to your life, in some ways was such a powerful teacher that you actually feel closer to them than some of your own blood relatives, right? Maybe a lot of your own blood relatives, so we don't get to pick those. We get to pick the others, right? And so really just knowing in your heart who you're really deeply connected to is also powerful. And when they go to the other side, they still remember you and still stay connected. Sometimes it's authors that have really impacted you through their work. Sometimes it can be even, I know this is going to sound very weird, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but fictional characters, archetypal characters, things that really have always deeply impacted you. For instance, if there's a certain modality or some fictional story perhaps that you just felt really touched by and very connected to, the lost little girl, or the one who is Cinderella's story or something like that, where you feel like you really didn't belong in the household, you really weren't treated fairly, and yet you still were able to transcend and be guided by a magical seeming person with a lot of wisdom to take you to the life you were meant to live all along. And you can see that story maybe playing out in your own life in a different kind of a way. All of these things are possible to help us recognize that we are in a web, in a network of life and of love, and that there is a great deal of love and attention and resource that is being trained upon us with our willingness to receive, with our willingness to ask, with our free will. So I want to, in this moment, if there's anybody that you're thinking of that is making you uncomfortable on the other side, that person, it only comes by your request and by your willfulness. So please know that no one on the other side has any power over you or has any power to come into your life or affect you unless you give that permission, unless you invite. So if there's someone who was unhealthy in this life that you really are really glad that they are not physically present, you do not need to worry about them, even as I'm speaking of them, that they will be able to have any effect on you in this life or to reach in any way that you don't allow. You are the one that hold that boundary. And if you have any question about that, you can get in touch with me in the coming weeks. I'll be happy to talk with you more about that. But I want you to know that you're in charge of this opportunity to have relationship. So you are a portal to this universal experience, an opening to the infinite human connection. So when people pass and they no longer have a body, they no longer have an avatar to walk around in the 3D world. But we still do, and we're still here. And so what we provide is a doorway for those who are connected to us to, with our permission and with our invitation, to magnify the energy and the power and the love that we're able to bring into the world because of some gift that we have received from them, from some wisdom or some insight that we call upon, and that we ask them, some mastery perhaps that they exhibited in their life that we would like to appropriate and use or call into, if somebody was a wonderful cook and you would like to become better at it, unite with that ancestor that knows how to cook awesome and start to intuit and begin to allow yourself to know some herbs or spices or things to try, or something that just out of nowhere just occurs to you that this might be a really tasty thing that you might try your hand at. Cooking's an art, and are so many things, but it would be a way for you to unite with somebody on the other side that has a gift that you want to do work with and do more things with. You're a portal to this universal experience, and that becomes the opportunity for people who still have gifts to give. Once they pass over, one thing that I have learned about them is that they youthen, even if they live to be 80 or 90, if they had a sickly body. All of that gets sort of corrected with once they pass over, because why? They don't have a body. But their appearance, should you see them, will often be in their upper 20s, like 25 to 30, something like that. I think of it as that's the perfect age where a 5-year-old child would see their parent. It's kind of like that. I don't know, maybe it's just because I think of my own parents that way. But it's that age where they're just so full of life, so full of energy, so full of promise. They're at their peak in a lot of ways. And so whatever that looks like, even they become more, they present more like that from the other side. There are infinite ancestors, guides, master teachers, books that you may have read about others, guides that you may have felt like you knew or you met maybe when you were a child, an angel perhaps, whatever different kinds of sort of invisible yet visible to you kinds of entities that are benevolent, loving, kind, those kinds of things. There's a number of those that are available to each of us and that are really trained to support us with our invitation and with our calling them into being with us, into offering their gifts. You see, your ancestors have lived their lives in this experience, but they have taken with them gifts that are passed on and sometimes seeded in each of us. Seeded in the sense that we harbor some of that unexpressed gift. It could be that they were incapable, unwilling, the time wasn't supportive of them, they didn't have the support that they needed to express a gift because life was so hard for them. But in this life, I may have that gift, and they may be able to connect with me if I invite them in to express that gift in form. There may be something that will come through. My grandmother taught me this after she passed. She was 99 years old, and the year before I went to ministerial school, she had passed. All her life, growing up Catholic, my grandmother had prayed for vocations in the Catholic tradition, of course, and she wanted priests or nuns to be coming out of her family, and she pushed that. My father into the seminary, and at 15 he flunked out because he had no desire to become a priest. And another cousin went into the seminary but never really completed that either. And I was thinking at the start of my ministerial year, my very first year in the seminary in Kansas City, why it was that my grandmother would have prayed so hard every day. I know she prayed every day for vocations. And I thought, why would a Catholic mother try to push a child into a celibate life? Why would she do that? What's her payoff, I thought, well, she had 6 kids. Maybe she thought she had enough grandchildren. I don't know. I mean, she had me by then, so surely she knew that, she wasn't going to find another match as good as this one. I don't know. No, Grandma says no. So that wasn't it at all. So, but basically, why is it that she would do that? And I had never really asked myself that question. But she'd passed, and there was no way for me to answer it. And then I began to wonder, what would make someone do that? And it occurred to me, a heretical idea occurred. that she herself had a calling and she had a vocation. My grandmother was a matriarch of the family. She pushed you. If it was for your good, there was no means that wasn't beneath her to make you do the thing that she knew was in your best interest. She would berate you, she would criticize you, she would beg you, she'd get on her knees and beg you, she would nag you about it, she would talk about it, she would put it in front of you, she would call somebody to call and tell you that you should go do it. She would literally do anything. That's how my father got into seminary at 14, but at 15 he got smart. So anyway, so knowing that that's the kind of person that she was, it occurred to me that somebody who was so sure that this was the most perfect life for somebody to live, why wouldn't she want that kind of life for her children? That would be so good. I wish I could do it myself. I could almost hear her saying it. But I had no proof. I asked my mother, who is her daughter-in-law, if she ever heard my grandmother say that, and she said no. So I really had no way to know that until the end of my school year. Oh, so let me just say that at the beginning of the school year, we also had a talk about how we got from there to here. And I had a 3-minute talk, and that's what I was trying to think of, was how did I get from there to here? And my grandmother occurred, and I followed that line of reasoning. Well, by the time I got ready to give my talk, I realized that after all those years of prayer, I was the answer to her prayer. And I had never, ever thought of it that way. I felt a bit of a heretic myself for being outside of the Catholic Church, to be a mother and a female instead of a male celibate priest, and yet claiming the priesthood for myself. And it took me a long time in preparation for that 3-minute talk to get past the part where I gave at the very end, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And so after I told my brief story of my grandmother, I ended my talk with, "Here I am, Grandma, send me." And I had to practice it many times before I could do it without crying, because I wanted them to cry, not me. It worked. So what I want you to know is that at the other end of that first year, there was a person who was presented in a class who was clairaudient, clairvoyant, and clairsentient. And suffice it to say, my brain was completely blown out of my head by this person that I would have judged as, these people who claim all these kinds of powers are really, are fakes. That's what I really thought. And so it was really difficult for me to accept that this person had all of these experiences, but they sounded very authentic and they sounded very real. And she was reordering everything I thought about who is really out there, I had just put aside all my Catholic entourage, all the saints, all of the people that had gone before me, the Blessed Mother, Jesus, I was just going straight to God. I just had to get all the intermediaries out of the way, and I was just doing this. So I was like at peace. I was like, oh, I can just go straight to God, just like Charles Fillmore. And then she's telling me, oh no, my grandparents, they walk in, they talk to me all the time, they're telling me they speak German, I don't speak German, but I understand everything they're saying, and I'm like, I completely understand how that could be, I could get that, but still, you sound crazy to me. And so when I was trying to understand where she was coming from, it was really just reordering my whole invisible world. And it just so happened, so I walked out to the parking lot as we were getting ready to go, and I just said, you told me that you see your grandparents. Well, I said, well, I often feel my grandmother's with me here in school. And she said, oh, she is. I said, I'm sorry, what? And she said, she is, she's right here. And I said, like now? Like there or there? And she said, well, she said she's short and she has a prominent nose and a prominent chin, And she's smiling very sweetly. And I said, well, that kind of sounds like her, but I said, she was the matriarch of the family. She is sweet is not a word I would use to describe her. And then she said, well, she's following you around because she's trying to, work on her sense of humor. And I said, well, she could use some help with that, for sure. And then I went, oh my God, she just heard me. I'm going to be in so much trouble, And then she said, she wants you to know that you're on a dual mission. That when you walk across the stage in your ordination, you're doing it for yourself and for her. I had nothing else to say after that. I said goodbye to her, I thanked her, and I walked away, and I'll tell you what, that did so many things for me. That helped me to understand that my intuition at the beginning of the year was right, that I intuited something with no physical evidence really whatsoever, that I knew what that felt like, and I did not have to chase after her and say, okay, well, now what does Grandma say? And now what does Grandma say, It's like I know now that I know what that feels like when I know what I need to know, and that I will be given that information as I need to know it, and that there is such a thing as a connection with somebody from the other side, that we complete a lot of that work. And in my grandmother's case, a deep desire that she had met a deep desire that was planted in me. And I believe that my grandmother, with my deep respect and love, radiates the power of her, the personal power that she had through me, and that I channel it through what I hope is my heart of love, and that I can use it that way. My father, I processed a lot of my life with him 10 years after his death. So it was on the other side when I did my therapeutic work and finally got to a place after many years of work where I was able to finally receive the love and the approval that I sought in every other relationship that I had, because I felt that he didn't love me and that he never really approved of me. And I realized that he always had. It was me who decided he didn't do it right for me. And so as I changed, I was able to let it in. And my father now, when I think of him, so unlike what I thought of him in the flesh when I was growing up with him, when I think of my father now, he's a pink cloud. A beautiful pink cloud. He's right here. He never says anything. He just is present to me, he just loves me, and he is so proud of me. And I feel that all the time. And now I realize that love is the love that I use in my ministry. And it comes from an endless place through both of us. That is the fulfillment of the mission that he rejected as a minister, as a priest, right? Isn't this so crazy, isn't it? The way this really works is, how much time do I have? None, right? Okay. Let me see, what do I want to bring it back to? Two things. Healing and forgiveness can still happen on the other side. When somebody has passed, we think, oh, I've lost my opportunity, I can never clear with them. Not so. I didn't know what my grandmother's life purpose was, or at least a lifetime desire until, 2 years after she passed. So just because someone passes out of their body doesn't mean that they are lost to you. In fact, they are everywhere present, every moment present. It is up to you to reach out to them if you so desire. And I've done, all of my essential healing work really has been done with people who've passed on the other side to receive those gifts. So I support you in following up with Reverend Sheila, who's going to be having her radical forgiveness ceremony. This ceremony will actually allow you to heal with non-local people, I imagine, and those people who have passed as well. That's just to remind you, it's November 10th at 1:30 to 4:30. You certainly can talk to her more about it if you're interested. And family constellations work that John Harold Morris is going to be offering Saturday, November 23rd, also 1:30 to 4:30. It's a Saturday. You'll get more information. You can go to our website and see it. Family constellations is a powerful way for people to sort of a psychodrama practice of being able to experience the relationships in your life and receive, believe it or not, new information that no one else could give you, that will come to you in such a powerful way that you know instantly it's true for you, and it suddenly shifts all of the mistaken, wounded feelings and hurt that we have carried with us and haven't known how to untangle for ourselves. It's a powerful, powerful work. I've never seen anything work so amazingly as that. So these are entities, they're mechanisms that are open to you. So why do this hard work? Why reach out at all? Why not just keep our heads down and wait for all this to be over? George Bernard Shaw says, "Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I've got hold of for the moment. And I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations." This is our legacy that we're leaving. This is our opportunity. If we don't call on those invisible relationships and love and wisdom, and all of the invisible help that you normally call on as well, and allow yourself to connect with these and really radiate the most powerful, beautiful love that you have to give, then our lives have only partially been lived, because this is the purpose of our souls. Cesar Chavez says, "True wealth is not measured in money or status or power. It is measured in the legacy we leave behind for those we love and those we inspire." This is our opportunity, and to make it count, we have so much good coming through us, some unfelt, unexpressed power and love. I just invite you to consider in your prayer time to think of someone or allow someone who comes to your mind that you have great love for, who had great love for you, that you can reestablish that relationship with them and invite them into your life now, just that you may feel that love, that acceptance, that power, that joy to be restored to you and to be given to the world through the light that you are. This is our power chord. So I was gonna do this earlier, but I don't want to forget this. Bruce, I'd like for you to strike a power chord for us. Would you? Yeah. Show them which each of the notes sounds like by itself.
I'm gonna have to turn this down slightly.
Yeah, turn the amp on.
So if you're, see, I turned that thing down.
That's it by themselves. A power chord.
With an acoustic guitar, of course.
Okay, maybe, thank you. I appreciate that. But you get the idea. If everything comes together, that power and the strength of being able to be united is so much more powerful. You have that power. God bless you all. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.